If the first, people who stood on their two legs upright, left the cave, looked around and thought to themselves, I'm going to go it alone. I'm telling you, Homo sapiens wouldn't have lasted 2 generations. We need society and community. That is it. Buongiorno freaks and geeks, welcome back to the channel. Today we will be reading an article I found on the Guardian website titled, "They're taught that showing feelings is shameful. 8 reasons men don't go to therapy and why they should. A clinical psychologist and why men still don't seek help for their mental health." Before reading through this article, there's 2 things I want to mention. Number 1, don't forget to like and subscribe to this video. Number 2, I'm going to preface reading this article with a single statement. We currently live in a world structured by rich white men for the fun of rich white men, which means I'm talking about people like Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, individuals that are all propped up by prominent politicians such as Donald Trump, Nigel Farage, and Keir Starmer. Bear that in mind while we read this article. When Jake, a businessman in his 50s, first arrives at my therapy practice, it's obvious that he has some misgivings. Jake's marriage to Louise is in trouble, and she has insisted he come and see me. If not for Louise, you wouldn't be here, would you? I inquire tentatively. He looks sheepish at first, then emboldened. He gives an emphatic no, as is almost always the case. Jake's wife has registered a problem that has passed him by and prompted his visit. Over the next few weeks, we sift through a maze of obstacles, and in the end, Jake is full of emotion. I'm alone in this world. Everyone leans on me. There's no one for me, he says. There's no one to turn to. First of all, well done, Jake, for finally getting to therapy. Second of all, I kind of get the sense that Louise maybe tried to talk to you, and maybe because you didn't open up to her, she insisted you open up to a stranger. But that's just my spider senses tingling. And if that's not the case, I formally apologize. But yeah, maybe that dynamic was at play within your marriage. But nonetheless, I do not denigrate your action to finally seek therapy. I think that's very, very good and very, very healthy of you. It's a common pattern, one I've seen throughout my 35 years as a psychologist specializing in male mental health. Men make up only 33% of referrals to NHS Talking Therapies. NHS Talking Therapies is a fantastic resource. If you have that in your area, I definitely recommend it. I've referred plenty of people to NHS Talking Therapies. They do group work, they do one-to-one work. Definitely check them out if you are at a point in your life where you cannot take it anymore. And yeah, you don't want to actually get to crisis point, but yeah, definitely recommend. They don't come easily, and when they do seek help in a crisis, they can disappear as suddenly as they arrive. Yet male vulnerability is clear. Men report lower levels of life satisfaction than women and make up 3/4 of suicides and problems with addiction. Yes, that is what is happening, but why is that? I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's the way society is structured and how men and women are socialized. Maybe that is highlighted in this article. But despite the increase in awareness around male mental health, men still tend to think there's a stigma to speaking with a professional, even though most of those who have tried therapy have a positive experience. Yeah, there's definitely a stigma around speaking to professional head doctors. That comes from the way alpha men are presented. Not only should they not seek help from anywhere else, but they should know everything themselves. That's one thing. Men also find that sometimes professionals may speak down to them and prefer someone to speak with them as opposed to at them. That could be another reason. But yeah, there's a variety of reasons why men don't seek professional help, not just when it comes to mental health, but to also physical health. So why are men still so reluctant to talk? Here are the issues I see again and again. So this whole article is written from the perspective of one clinical psychologist. So we have to take everything they say with a pinch of salt. This is not rooted in extensive studies. This is just what this person has seen at their particular practice, which means the results is always going to be skewed because of his specialism, but also maybe only certain types of people are able to access his practice. Men are primed for action rather than words. Okay. Historically, men's role centered on work and provision, women's on caregiving, looking after the home and raising children. Today, men still tend to be more action orientated and task focused. This is partially hardwired. Boys tend to lag behind girls in verbal and emotional achievement. Women speak more words in an average day. Okay, a lot to unpack in that little section, but first of all, I don't know if men are hardwired to speak, or no, not speak, but to do action, and women are hardwired to speak. I know society has socialized us that way, definitely, but there are a variety of situations where men can't stop yapping and they never shut up. Who are the most famous stand-up comedians who will be happy to stand on a stage and speak to a crowd and not be interrupted for an hour straight? The top 10 podcasts in the UK right now, majority men just yapping. Well, there's a link to this study around women saying more words in a day, and I don't know, I need to look into it further, but I'm guessing the countries that they decided to do this study within was where women are more likely to be at home raising their children. Therefore, you have to speak more in a day. Like, you can't just be silent around a child. How else are they gonna be able to speak your language? And maybe it's in societies where men do jobs where they're more solitary, so Uber drivers or Uber Eats workers, that type of stuff. So I don't know, I'm just saying that the data may be skewed around women having saying more average words in a day than men. Actions come before the development of language. It is our mother tongue, and men tend to stick with this early way of communicating, which is shaped both by biology and the social context. Again, I think the social context far outweighs the biology. Even when you go back 2,000 years and you look at the center of debate and modern Western civilization, and you just have paintings of men just yapping in the Senate all day. It's just like, come on, man. Men are yappers. They don't stop talking. When it comes to expressing distress, men find it more difficult to do so verbally. They are far less likely to say they are depressed or anxious. Instead, they are prone to acting out when troubled. Without even realizing why, they may find themselves driving too fast, getting into altercations, drinking or using pornography when they experience emotional difficulty. That is the what. But why are they doing that? Why is society structured in a way where men have to seek this instead of going to therapy? Also, why are we in a society where men have to take the edge of stuff anyway? Yeah?
That's a good point.
Therapy is feminized. Word? Women have been more likely to seek professional help in the form of talking therapies, and as a result, therapy has developed through the female lens. Services are often feminized in design. with an emphasis on talking directly about feelings, which can be uncomfortable for men who tend to respond better to shoulder-to-shoulder conversations than face-to-face discussions. Shoulder-to-shoulder conversations is where you see men standing side by side at a bar or sitting side by side watching a sports game or sitting in a car, or even just walking down the street. Men are more likely to use those situations to have conversations, especially when they want to talk about deep things. Fine. Yeah, just transport that to therapy. Just do it that way. Like, no one's stopping us from doing that. Like, this person writing this should do that more. Like, you're saying men respond better to that. Do you employ that in your practice? That would be nice to know.
Good point.
They often prefer group therapy for its sense of camaraderie and shared experience, allowing connection without being in the spotlight. Yeah, definitely. Things like AA or GA, which is Gamblers Anonymous, are more likely to be attended by men, but also the anonymous part helps men to be able to more like throw caution to the wind. So yeah, I agree with that. Coaching and mentoring show promise as male-friendly approaches. Definitely, I coach a lot of men and they respond much better because I don't have a qualification.
I beg your pardon?
And everything I say is around them having the motivation within themselves to make that change. It's not coming from me. I'm not giving them any answers. The answers are within themselves, and they just need to get to a place where they're able to do that. So yeah, coaching is great for men in my experience and going by my clients who repeatedly come back to me. I often find this with my patients. You begin by talking about their work setting, an area they feel comfortable discussing, and end up talking about more intimate personal struggles, because going straight into the personal is too threatening. Services working with male veterans combined activities such as walking and talking with traditional talk therapy. The Men Sheds Association, which encourages people to come together to make, repair and repurpose, supporting projects in their communities, say that 89% of participants feel less depressed after engaging with it. That's amazing. That's it. Nothing more to say there. Showing vulnerability is risky in a hierarchy. I'm struck by how many men come to see me as a milestone birthday approaches, when they're 39 or 49, say. Reflecting on a reunion with old friends, one middle-aged patient told me, "What a relief. There was none of the competitiveness that made it so difficult to connect when we were younger. We can all relax now. We've got to where we've got to in life." He said he could never have allowed himself to seek therapy earlier. It would have been like exposing my belly to my adversary without my armor on. First of all, why were you still friends with these people if there was such massive competitiveness that made you feel sad and made you just filled you with dread before you even got to the reunion? Like, why have we built a society where men are like that? Luckily for me, and obviously it's not the norm, I don't have competitiveness in my friendship circle, thank goodness. And whenever we meet, it is simply just to catch up, not to compare, not to contrast, just to catch up and just be normal human beings outside of the workplace. So yeah, guys, we need to do better. The drive to strive is deeply encoded in men and can stop us getting help when we're down. Showing weakness feels hazardous when your position in the pecking order matters, and yet concealing it ultimately leads to greater fragility. Men are acutely shame-prone when it comes to showing vulnerability, fearing it will lower their status in the eyes of others. Who are these others? Is it other men? Because it's definitely not women. So again, we are being socialized to be like this. Science helps us make sense of this. Male infants are more emotionally reactive than girls, less able to self-soothe and more dependent on external regulation from caregivers. Yet we continue to expect boys to be more resilient, to show less emotion. The very infants we encourage to be robust are those most negatively affected when deprived of comfort. Sounds like a massive society issue to me. And we keep seeing societal issues being peppered through this. Again, we currently live in a world structured by rich white men for the fun of rich white men. But we're not presented with any solutions other than just come to therapy, guys. How about we do prevention over cure? How about we have a society where they never have to get to the point where they need therapy, yeah? Therapy, which encourages emotional expression, can feel threatening when you've been raised to believe that showing your feelings is shameful. I have met many men who struggle with sexual dysfunction but feel unable to talk about it, sometimes avoiding relationships entirely rather than seeking help. Yeah, shameful to who? Who is making these men feel so ashamed? It's not me, but I'm sure it'll be other men criticizing, other men telling them to man up, other men to say, show a stiff upper lip, especially in the UK. Why are they getting to this point? That's what we need to be addressing. And yet I cannot recall a single younger man who has regretted starting therapy. A safe therapeutic environment allows men to look at the behavioral patterns that limit them and to begin to let them go. Yeah, standard. I like this illustration. This is men sticking their head in the sand. And again, I would say it's other men that push their heads into the sand. Yeah, and don't get me wrong, I think it's amazing that men are seeking therapy. I absolutely advocate and promote and encourage that. I'm just saying we also need to look at why they need therapy and what can we do as a society to prevent men needing therapy. Everything's so expensive. People are not able to find the jobs that they've gone to university and studied to become. People are running around without purpose. How can we as a society prevent that? The age-old go it alone mentality. From the 19th century novel centered on the buccaneer living a solitary existence to the modern cult of the Sigma male, the online celebration of men who need no one. The legacy of men going it alone casts a long shadow. Therapy, by definition, begins with the client admitting they can't do it all alone. I've never really understood this whole Sigma mind grind set and men going it alone like they're Batman, just doing ungodly amounts of vigilanteism. If the first, people who stood on their two legs upright, left the cave, looked around and thought to themselves, I'm going to go it alone. I'm telling you, Homo sapiens wouldn't have lasted 2 generations. We need society and community. That is it. The single most important thing that makes for a good life is strong, meaningful relationships. They are as important in predicting longevity as being a non-smoker. Yet men find it hard to step away from the powerful and harmful notion that there is safety in being solitary and self-sufficient. Yeah, I agree. Society has told us that we need to be rugged individualists, and it's always been bubbling under the surface, but it really went on steroids with the 1980s and Margaret Thatcher and Ronald Reagan. They have really got a lot to answer for in the year 2026 when they dominated the 1980s. It's crazy. What happens in the therapy room Gradually, men begin to test out the possibility that connection isn't weakness but nourishment. The development of an authentic, connected relationship with their therapist proves it. Yeah, I respect that. Emotional claustrophobia. I don't think I can keep it up, says Marcus, referring to his fiance's wish to talk about their relationship. I can do it for a bit, but then we keep going and I feel completely overwhelmed. Later, he admits that it makes him feel inadequate. He hasn't had a lot of practice of expressing himself. Again, that is not his fault or his partner's fault or his fiance's fault. It's more to do with society and how he's been conditioned, in my opinion. So if you're not used to speaking a lot, when you do come up against a speaker, this will feel overwhelming. With men, the expression of strong emotion can often only be tolerated in bite-sized chunks. They are often raised to approach difficulties mechanically. Identify, act, solve. This is helpful when the problem is practical, but when it is emotional, they can become unstuck. Therapy, which requires patience and uncertainty, doesn't fit this template. It may be necessary to provide men with a practical framework, such as specific techniques to manage symptoms of depression, panic attacks, or other problems with anxiety. Why has nobody told me this before? By Julie Smith is really useful for this. Haven't heard of that book before, but I might check it out myself. They wait until crisis point. Michael had been in a same-sex marriage for almost 30 years. Same-sex marriage for 30 years? Like, you mean he was in a relationship for 30 years? Like, I don't know, like how long has marriage been legalized anywhere on the planet? 30 years. Okay, like, hey, kudos to him if it has been marriage for 30 years anyway. When he came to see me, their sexual relationship was good to begin with, but there hadn't been much intimacy for the past 2 decades. It hadn't occurred to them to seek help, but Michael retreated deeper and deeper into using pornography and talking to strangers online. Emotional cheating, essentially, which in some aspects can be worse than physical cheating. In my opinion, my humble opinion. He felt alone and guilty, acutely depressed and desperate to be released from the prison he had created for himself. Michael's husband discovered that he was researching methods to take his life, and this brought him to my consulting room. Again, why are people letting it get to the point where you are even most people, research has shown that most people have contemplated suicide. However, it's the act, like actually having a plan in place which separates many people. Yeah, it should never get to that point. Never, guys. On the whole, men tend to have less patience and want a quick fix. As a result, the threshold for action tends to be higher, and thus men will often allow things to fester and become worse before they seek help. A problem that might have been addressed earlier becomes overwhelming and can lead to needless despair and suffering. Yeah, not only mental health, but that also charts with physical health as well. A shortage of role models. There are exceptions, such as Stormzy, Prince Harry, and the footballer Tyrone Mings. All millionaires, by the way. But media accounts of men in therapy often emerge when they are in crisis, such as when they go to rehab. Therapy is framed as a redemptive arc, a tidy solution to adversity. Men often come to therapy expecting immediate results and need to be helped to let go of the fantasy of a swift remedy, learning instead to turn up, sit with vulnerability, and allow progress to unfold in small, unheroic steps. Definitely. Celebrity culture is that a few people may try therapy, but they let it get to rock bottom, go to rehab for any period between a day and 6 months, come out, they're all fixed. But that is so one-dimensional. And then that happens in real life, and then they replicate this in all of the films and TV that we consume. Well, I don't consume much film and TV anymore, but yeah, everyone else consumes. So this again is a socialized problem that we need to address. We rarely see men discussing therapy as routine maintenance, the way we might talk about going to the gym or managing diet. Men are also considerably underrepresented in the psychological professions, including counseling and psychotherapy, which furthers the impression that these services are not suited to the needs of men and boys. Then do more promotion. We need to plug more promotion. Like, just because you go somewhere and don't see like the same gender as you doesn't mean you're not going to access it. It's just like women with gynecology. Come on, guys, like, we can do better. We can, like, that out of all the hurdles that have been mentioned in this article so far, that's like one of the smallest. Okay, fear of what they may find. Therapy is about confronting the things we would prefer to avoid. It might uncover long buried pain, guilt, or grief. The fear that the whole structure might collapse if you start pulling on the threads is something everyone must overcome when they seek help. But it is particularly acute in men. They tend to feel deeply ashamed of their suffering, concealing it not just from others, but from themselves. True. But I would say they are more concealing it from other men. The paradox is that therapy doesn't strip away strength, it redefines it. It offers a space where control can loosen without consequence, where emotions can be named rather than managed. The real challenge is cultural.
I think we did it!
We did it. Finally, we got to where it's all about culture. Gosh, thank God he got there eventually. I would have liked more sprinkles along the way of this article, but we got there, guys. Cultural, yeah? Masculinity links worth with resilience, while therapy still signals fragility. I'm just really happy that we got to the place where the why this is happening to men in the first place.
You didn't understand much of what he said, only that he was suffering.
Is cultural, and that's why they need to seek therapy. And then you got the double hardship of the fact that it's not it's very taboo for men to then go and seek therapy. Like, what are we doing here? If you're trying to help a man you care about take the first step, offer unpressured side-by-side connection and understanding, not instruction, advice, or critique. And if you're the man hesitating on the threshold, you don't have to be at crisis point to seek support. It's not self-indulgent to talk about yourself. Instead, it helps you be less self-focused and to concentrate on the things that really matter, to make good connections with those closest to you. Dr. Stephen Blumenthal is a consultant, clinical psychologist, and psychoanalyst in the NHS and in private practice. So I just checked Dr. Stephen Blumenthal's website and there's no prices there. It doesn't list any prices. It just says book a consultation. So it's definitely out of my price range. I don't know about you, but overall, the article does explain some legitimate hurdles for why men don't go to therapy. But there's like 2 factors that were missed out of here. There is a price point issue. Of course, there are free services like NHS talking therapies, but when there's a free service and so many people are in crisis, the waiting list can be up to 6 months. So price point, lack of funds should have been there as well. Also, when thinking intersectionally, I'm a black man. When it comes to mental health and supporting your mental health, there is a massive stigma when it comes to black men, because black men are much more likely to be sectioned under the Mental Health Act than their white counterparts. So why would you then go out of your way to go and have a one-to-one talk with a therapist? You already have a very skewed and damaged relationship when it comes to mental health. So that's missed out of this article. Yeah, legitimate. And we got to the fact that it was cultural, but now I'm thinking, when he's talking about culture, I I think Dr. Stephen was referring to the fact that it's cultural that men don't go and seek therapy, as opposed to it's cultural that men are placed in society and put under so much pressure that they are needing therapy in the first place.
Aha, thank you.
What did you think? Tell me down below in the comments. I would love to read it. If you stayed with the video up to this point, thank you. I cannot thank you enough, and I really appreciate it. Give the video a like if you liked it. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you're a woman and you know a woman,
getting a bit odd, don't you think?
And you want to spot red flags early in relationships, I've produced the audiobook. I didn't write it, but I provided the voice. Link to that audiobook will be down below. Yeah, so thank you once again, and hopefully I'll see you soon. Okay, ciao.
Keep moving up, don't you ever stop. Whatever it is, take it, take it, take it, take it.